Welcome to the Golden Com Podcast. Special guest with me, Zane Stoddard. Zane Stoddard, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Jason. Great to be here.
We're going to talk about one of my favorite things in the world. I tell people I love God, I love family, I love sports.
That's about my order.
Is that your order?
Yeah. Yes.
Well, we're going to talk about number 3
It
today.
is my order, yeah.
If we want to talk about the first two, we could for hours, but why don't we make a pact that we're going to stick to number 3? We're going to talk about sports
You got
today.
it.
All right. So, Zane, you're one of the people in this world that many people are probably envious. You've made a career in sports, and now you're teaching how others can make careers in sports. Is that right?
That's correct. Yeah, how to break into sports.
How to break into sports. So I want to break into sports by starting from the beginning. If you wouldn't mind, tell me where you grew up. And I looked on your LinkedIn, you went to Arizona. Mm-hmm. So maybe quickly, where you grew up and the best part of where you grew up and how you got to Arizona.
Yeah, I grew up in the Bay Area, up outside of San Francisco in the East Bay in a town called Danville. It's a small town, but it seems like people often know of it for some reason. And like a lot of kids, I absolutely loved sports. I mean, so I played organized sports, but boy, in between practices, it was wiffle ball in the front yard, basketball in the backyard. So passionate about sports, and I learned so much from sports. And so, had some, local success in playing sports growing up through high school. Chose University of Arizona to go to after high school. Just an amalgamation, like a lot of people, of opportunity and decisions. Had some friends who had gone to University of Arizona, had good sports for me to be a fan of. Was not too far from home. was far enough to for my parents not to be able to pop in on me, and so it was everything it was cracked up to be. To spend 5 years in Tucson, Arizona at the university.
So that's pretty far south for those that never seen where that is. That's right by the border.
Yeah,
really.
It is. Yeah,
hotter than Hades.
It's hot. It's not quite as hot.
When you get
I learned
back in the fall.
Not quite as hot as Phoenix because it's a little higher desert, so it's a little bit more palatable, but it's hot.
Now, are you going in there thinking I'm going to be in sports? Or are you going in there thinking I'm going to college?
I had no clue.
Okay.
It's part of my story. It's part of why I help people in breaking into sports. I loved it. Didn't have any idea what I was going to do coming out of college. I was a journalism major, actually. When I was in college, they didn't have sports management degrees. Now, of course, a lot of schools do, hundreds if not thousands, and are adopting them, either sports management minors, majors, bachelor degrees, that is, master's degrees, or even certificate programs. So it was a different landscape, dramatically different in terms of having the opportunity to work in sports. But when I graduated from college, in discussion with my parents, figured out that I wanted to take a shot at working in sports, even though I'd been a journalism major, which it ended up actually helping me in business because there's a lot of writing and communication, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So my parents actually gave me a sports career conference admission. They paid for it as my graduation gift.
No kidding.
And there's a whole story that follows that, but I was off and running.
Just tell me about the conference.
Yeah, so the conference was down in San Diego. I went with a couple of buddies from college, and it was, even though it was a little bit before its time, it was typical for what sports conferences are these days, where a lot of people pay a lot of money to listen to speakers from throughout the business of sports. It was a good experience. I have part of the program and system that I work with people on now is really in response to that kind of system that people spend a lot of money on and don't get a ton of results from in trying to get into sports. So, but that was the beginning for me.
Yeah. This system is part of this elite sports advisory company that you now run.
Yeah.
And we're going to get there as soon as you tell me what your first job or two were in sports, because you certainly didn't start at this elite sports advisory CEO. You're there now,
Right.
but you've been in the trenches. I think 30 years you've been in sports, right? You don't look
That's right.
that old, so I'll have to fact check that for you. But 30 years, where did you get in first?
So coming out of college, I had 2 jobs at restaurants and was fortunate enough through a random series of events to land an internship with the LA Clippers. And I with the 2 jobs, in order to make ends meet, because when I first started I wasn't getting paid, and then when I finally got paid as an intern at the Clippers, it was not enough to live off of. And so
Are they in San Diego right now?
no.
They were in LA.
No, yeah,
Okay.
not that old.
Not that. Sorry.
It was actually
Not
around the
Nixon.
10-year anniversary
Okay.
of them being in
Being
Los
in LA,
Angeles at
okay.
the time.
Got it.
Fair question.
Sorry, I lose track of time.
Fair question. It wasn't the Stone Age then. Started out as an intern at the Clippers. And by the way, as all this is rolling out of my mouth, every ounce of this informed elite sports, which is the business I have today. So it's interesting to look back, because I don't always think about it that way, but it is interesting to look back. I tell people, I'm you. I speak to college students. I'm speaking to some tomorrow quite a bit, and throughout my career. And I often say, I am you. I didn't know anybody in sports. And so all this informs what is my business now. So I interned at the LA Clippers for, I think it was about 6 or 8 months before I was actually hired full-time by the Clippers. And then on to the rest of my career.
Nice, which includes NASCAR.
And this is part of this, once again, is part of what I advise people on. Is that I went from interning with the LA Clippers to full-time at the LA Clippers, had the opportunity to jump over to a sponsor of the Clippers, which was a subsidiary of Nike, which is not relevant because they were small, and most importantly, they were a partner of the LA Clippers. And by joining a smaller, less visible company that was a partner of the Clippers, I had exposure to pretty much all of the leagues. So I was working with partnership programs that we had with the NFL, the NBA, hockey, baseball, and a whole bunch of teams. I was on a trip to New York. I had developed a really strong relationship with a bunch of folks from the NBA league office in New York through our business relationship. And they turned the tables on me and said, we've got a position and we'd like to consider you for this position at the NBA league office. Did that. They moved me out to New York. I was there for 6 months, all of 6 months. Barely got my stuff off the truck. I was a young single guy, so I didn't have much stuff. And I lived in a hotel for 3 of those months that the NBA put me up at, because it's not easy to get a place in New York automatically. And this all happened so fast. So finally got an apartment, unloaded my stuff. Meanwhile, I was going to work every day at the NBA league office, and I was proposing a program to launch an LA office for the NBA. And so I was this young guy, but it went up through, and it was shepherded by, so I was leading it, but it was shepherded by some executives at the company, including a guy named Scott Dickey, who's now a really good friend of mine and ironically lived around the corner from me in Manhattan Beach. But super talented, great guy. And a guy named Rick Welts, who was retired recently, but highly esteemed sports executive. Last was the president of the Golden State Warriors. And then Adam Silver, who was at the time, president of NBA Entertainment. Rick Welts was president of NBA Properties. They were kind of co-presidents underneath David Stern. And so it went up in these 6 months I was in New York, it went up through the system. This LA office I was pitching, and Adam Silver, David Stern signed off on it ultimately and sent me back out after 6 months. So went back out to LA, opened a small office, and managed that for almost a decade. Jumped out to do some independent stuff, but ultimately found my way back to leading NASCAR's LA office. Did that for almost a decade. And then over the last few years, as I've gotten older, I really enjoy sharing insights, helping people cut corners on things that I didn't. And so I had advised so many people, when you sit in these roles at kind of glossy brands in sports, you just naturally get a lot of people that come to you for advice, friends, kids, neighbors, aunts, uncles whose kids are trying to get into sports. And so I had honed this point of view about what everybody was trying to do versus what everybody should be trying to do to get into sports. And so the last couple of years, I decided, gosh, I've shared this information for so many years. I am going to develop a business to more formally share this program and this system with people who have a passion for sports like I have had.
That was terrific. Thank you for sharing all that. So let me see if I can double click on a couple things I heard. One is graduate with journalism, didn't know exactly what you want to do. Your parents sent you to a sports conference. That was kind of the first door that you saw. And then through a myriad of things, you end up actually working for the Clippers. But then it seems like the point that we're going to, the interesting point is you end up really cutting your teeth on not a franchise, but a private company that worked with the franchises.
That was the biggest epiphany.
So
of my career.
that's the piece that I think we want to hammer home, because that's what I heard gave you the most exposure. You're no longer a cog. You're actually doing things where you can see your work.
It gave me a lot.
It gave you a lot. Okay. Then you're doing a good job because you're always on stage. I tell my staff, hey, you're always on stage. You never know who's watching. You're always on stage. Mm-hmm. The NBA is watching you on stage with this company, and they pick you up, and now you're at a completely different level inside the shiny object. Spent 10 years in NBA, 10 years in NASCAR, and now you've got this company where you want to help others navigate the sports world, maybe with some different lens than they have just through textbooks and what they see on TV.
Yeah, it's all about breaking into sports.
Breaking into sports. That's awesome. So did I hear you right that your audience now are young people?
They are either young people who are graduating soon, recently graduated from college, or they're career changers. So I've had career change clients as well.
Okay, got it. And you do one-on-one coaching.
So there are some different forms of what I do.
Ooh, tell me.
So I have worked with people hourly to listen to them and give them a custom strategy in a one-on-one environment. But that's just an hourly, one-off experience. I have a recorded program that people can do, because a lot of people want to do it on their own time in the comfort of their own home, on demand, whenever they want to.
Oh, nice.
So it's a recorded 8-module program. I'm in the process of updating that right now. I have created a custom strategy that I deliver to people, and then I work one-on-one with people. That's far more hands-on, far more customized, far more exclusive experience, where we walk through the system that I have developed in 8 weeks, just an hour a week. There's work on the client's end, but this is really the pinnacle of it, where it's very custom for what the person wants to do, specifically what they want to do, specifically where they want to live, specifically what sport they would like to work in, specifically what teams would be a sort of a dream outcome for them. And so that's the one that is so divergent from what's in the market.
Mm-hmm. And we need diversion, because I read an article that you wrote on your LinkedIn. It was a catchy article for me, because it said, if I had 8 mulligans, my golf game would be pretty good.
Yeah.
And so if
Or more.
Or more, yeah. So I'm right there with you. And what you were referring to is, if you knew what you knew today at the beginning, these are the advice you would give yourself. And it was all based on math. The theories that you put together, your strategy is a mathematical strategy, because the math doesn't add up with the amount of people that want to be in these positions, particularly with the franchise. So maybe touch on that. The article that you wrote about the math and the numbers, just the sheer numbers of what's going on in sports.
I mean, listen, in coaching, advising, there's a lot of subjective information that's delivered. And so I wanted to and knew that there was evidence, very, very clear evidence, that if you are graduated from college and you don't have, and your only strategy is networking to get into sports, you are more than likely not going to get into sports. So I wanted to make that abundantly clear before sharing my tactics and my system. So there are 17,000 sports management graduates a year. Once again, sports management as a degree didn't exist when I was coming out of college. So now there's even more people trying to do it, because it's established and it's defined. And so there are 17,000 sports management graduates. There's probably pushing 50,000 graduates a year trying to get into sports, because I have a client right now who goes to a university that doesn't have a sports management degree. So their degree is communications, which, complete side note that we won't get into, but totally fine. Don't need to have a sports management degree. But people ask me that often. 17,000 to 50,000 people effectively coming out of college looking to get into sports, primarily aiming for internships, because that's the established gateway into sports. And they're aiming at 124 major sports properties, which is baseball, football, basketball, and hockey. NHL, MLB, NFL.
Who all take a dozen interns.
Who might take a dozen internships a year.
So whatever, 124.
There's all kinds of information that I share around that, and those are also limited internships. So they're internship programs at the Lakers, and I know folks at the Lakers, and they're super well intended, but it's a system where they bring you in for effectively 3 months, and then you're gone, and the next group comes in. So these aren't even intended to potentially hire you. When I was intern coming out of college, I got hired as an intern. So there's other reasons why you also should not aim for the major sports properties. But 17 to 50,000, call it 17,000, best case scenario, aiming at 124 sports properties. 2% will land internships with these major sports properties. Let's see, 2% will of those will turn into jobs.
So 2% will get in, and 2% of those will get a job.
Will
right?
get
so
jobs.
you got a better chance playing.
And so, you might as well try to
you might as well play
come
shortstop
off the bench.
Yeah, exactly.
Like Bronny. No, I didn't say that.
No, you didn't say that.
So what I say is, and you alluded to it, the math don't math.
Yes.
And everybody thinks they're going to be the 2%. But what I experience, almost without exception, is people try to go it alone, and they try to network. So people go through college in sports management degrees, and they learn primarily good tactics about how to actually work in sports. Then they're given their degree and they say, good luck finding a job. What they will share is just network. The problem with just networking, and I shouldn't even have to explain this, but networking is extremely important and valuable throughout your career, because it does lead to other opportunities. It leads to other business, so job opportunities, business opportunities. It's so important to develop authentic relationships throughout your career. However, when you are breaking in and you're starting from zero with your relationships, there's only a handful of people out there who actually know somebody who works with a major sports property, and the chances of somebody introducing you to somebody that has the capability and the willingness to make a call on your behalf to the Lakers, and it just so happens that on that day at the Lakers, they have an opening, and it just so happens that nobody else has inquired about that opening, and it just so happens that the person hiring for that opening doesn't know anybody that they would fill that role with. You get the point. The math don't math. Networking is extremely valuable in the middle of your career, but for landing a job in sports, dare I say that it's almost useless. And I experience it. I've experienced it for 30 years, and I experience it every single day. People come to me, and they are worn out. They're dejected. They've lost hope. They spent the last 4 years and a lot of money getting a degree in sports and learning some stuff about how to actually execute the business of sports, but they can't get in.
That's terrific. And you've got a remedy for that.
I do.
Yeah. And so we're not going to get into the remedy because I know you can sign up for a free newsletter.
Yeah.
I saw that on your website.
That's right.
I signed up.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I'm looking forward to it. And we could go to Elite Sports Advisory to find you.
So it's at zanestoddard.com.
zanestoddard.com. Yep. Awesome. That's easy. That's your name. I'll put it in the show notes. And as a person that is, around sports, mainly at the high school level, I spent a lot of time doing community sports, and I love it. Just love it.
Yeah, me too.
Love that you're in my community. So how fun that you're here and you'd spend time with me on this show. I really appreciate you coming down.
Yeah. Thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. We'll follow it.
This is awesome.
You got it.
Thank you.
See you again.
Thanks.
All right. Yeah. Bye.